live with the whole fucking world with Scott Matlock, the amazing fiddler, the Mountain Ride.
Hi Chris, thanks for coming. Thanks for putting us on live here, for exposing or subjecting the world to our musical stylings. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the trip to New York. I heard an interesting story tonight. Apparently you walk like a New Yorker and everybody else walks like tourists.
Yeah. Well, I do tend to walk a little fast wherever I am. I've been criticized that from time to time. But yeah, I'm told you have to walk with confidence. I'm not sure which incident you're referring to. I know in one case there was a doorman that was kind of keeping the street people and stuff out of the hotel elevators in the Hotel Pennsylvania, and you had to show a room key or a room card. You know the story about walking past the doorman without the key. Apparently if you walk with confidence past the doorman, they're like, oh yeah, he must belong up there.
What was that like for you guys playing in New York City in a club, you know, nice room like American Beauty?
Well, it was awesome. I mean, just the stage was beautiful, the chandelier and the lighting was beautiful, the sound was great. The friends like you that came so far to see us were just, I can't express my appreciation enough. But there were the fact that we hooked up with some people that live in New Jersey that came out to see us. And there were even people I gather that had not met us in person before but had seen us on the internet or seen us on Facebook and decided to come out and, you know, liked it. So it was wonderful. I had played in New York City, but it was the first time we played in New York City as a band. And you know, everybody wants to play in the Big Apple. Everybody wants to see what they got, see if they can line up, you know. So.
Yeah, there's a very thriving bluegrass scene in Japan, and you had a bunch of Japanese folks there at that show in New York. So how cool was that?
It was extremely cool. It was cool to see folks from other countries kind of adopting or adapting another culture like that and diving so deeply into it. I've seen some amazing players on the internet, amazing players in Japan. So yeah, it was not only spreading the gospel of bluegrass and newgrass around the country, but around the world. So it's great.
Talk a little bit about, you know, the songs that you tend to sing are usually covers.
Right.
Do you write, or who writes in the band?
I write very few songs. I haven't introduced any songs that I wrote to the band yet. I'm kind of timid to do so because Eric is so prolific and he's been doing it for so long. Yeah, basically Eric and Kate write and sing all the original songs, but you know, at the level we are, it's pretty much an expectation, of course, in bars and clubs, that you're going to mix in a few covers. And that's kind of my niche or my forte with the band. So, and also we use it as a way to kind of mix up the styles of music we play and throw people some curveballs of other kinds of songs that they might or might not expect from a bluegrass or newgrass band.
Dylan, a personal favorite? I mean, it seems like a lot of the covers you sing are Dylan songs.
Dylan was an original icon, an idol of mine, and somebody who, you know, when I was in 9th grade or 10th grade, kind of absorbed and bought all those albums like blood on the tracks and learned every song and bought the books and sang them at open mic nights. And I'm sure, yeah, he was clearly an idol. But I think the cool thing with Dylan is that, as everybody knows who loves Dylan, you know, we love his idiosyncratic voice and the way he presents it, but the songs survive so many different interpretations and rearrangements by so many other great artists that many, if not all, of the Dylan songs that I've introduced to this band are other people's arrangements, like Tim O'Brien's arrangement from Red on Blonde of Senor, which I think is just an awesome arrangement of that song. So yeah, it's great to do songs by such a great artist whose tunes lend themselves so easily to reinterpretation, and they're like evergreen.
You do Senor a lot, and the other, I actually never heard it by Dylan. I heard it, the String Dusters cover of it.
Yeah. I suspect they stole it from Tim O'Brien too. Or the idea, perhaps, yeah. I don't know if they did the full arrangement, but yeah, it was originally on an album called Red on Blonde from 1990 of all Dylan covers by Tim O'Brien, who's actually a personal favorite artist of mine. And yeah, first time I heard that cover, I said, I'm going to sing that and steal that somehow.
So let's go back to Scott Matlock, the young boy in high school.
Oh, let's not. Okay, all right.
Playing violin. Was that a difficult situation, or I mean?
Well, I think if we go back a little before high school, I amused a lot of my friends by talking about how I was the fat kid walking to the bus stop that kids were throwing snowballs, and I was protecting myself with my violin case, you know, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I was nerdy, and that certainly carrying a violin back and forth to high school or middle school was not a way to endear yourself to the to the jock and in crowd, certainly. But you know, as they say, all the high school nerds and school nerds eventually have their revenge. So I use it now. You know, I met my wife and met probably every girlfriend I ever had through playing the violin. So it has its function. It has its place.
When did you shift from more classical violin to being a fiddler?
It was after a long break after high school. I was classically trained since 4th grade and studied under a great artist named John Eakin, and played in the Harrisburg Symphony, and took that about as far as it could go before there's a jumping off point when you leave high school, where you have to decide if you're going to make violin or classical music generally a career. You have to go to conservatory, which essentially means that you're going to spend 8 or 12 hours a day memorizing concertos, note for note, thousands of notes. And that just held no appeal for me. And I think I was a little bit intimidated by it. It just didn't sound like fun. And I just kind of put the violin down and really didn't play it much through college. Just went back on the academic track went back on an academic track of not playing instruments, and really barely picked it up through college. And then after I got out of college, I wanted to play at open mic nights with my friends, and I was only a mediocre guitarist, so I would play rhythm guitar and accompany myself. Then it occurred to me, well, you know, you have some basic skills that you might be able to adapt here if you play long enough. So maybe in my mid-20s, I started picking it back up again and playing at open mic nights, playing with friends. And boy, it's a long process of retraining and relearning how to play improvised music, like colloquial or music, I don't know if that's the right word for it, rather than written out music. Like classical music is all about exactly reproducing the intent of the composer, every single note, every single slur, every single triplet, and you put your own interpretation in the dynamics or the tempo, but essentially you're identically reproducing the thousands of notes that some great artist wrote. Whereas obviously improvisational music, blues music, rock and roll, jazz is all about completely internalizing the melody and then improvising, which is a horribly intimidating thing for classical musicians. I remember seeing Itzhak Perlman, one of the greatest classical violinists in history, he still is, he's getting older now, but one of the greatest violinists to ever walk the earth, put out an album, I think, with Claude Bowling or somebody else, I forget who it was, where he attempted to play improvisational jazz, and it was just incredibly wooden. And it just goes to show they're entirely different disciplines, and it's not really transferable. So frankly, it took me decades, and I feel like it's a lifelong process of kind of retraining myself from reading music into improvising.
And I'm going to set you up here. I'm going to play straight man, see if you know the punchline of this joke.
Okay.
What's the difference between a violin and a fiddle?
5 teeth on the player.
I heard it was $20,000.
$20,000. You don't spill beer on a violin. I got a million of them, but you don't have time.
So we're trying to get Eric over here, and he's being more shy than Kate. So until we get him over here and Scott back in from his Chance back in from his smoke break, tell us a little bit more about how did you hook up with this band?
Well, you know, I had seen Eric's dead cover band, The Reckoning, a number of times. I'd been in the show and had met him socially a few times. But Eric was the one that kind of reached out to me through Facebook after he had come to see me play with the previous duo I was playing with, a band called Dem Guys in Mitch Monroe. And he asked me, he said, why aren't we playing music together? I mean, he just put it as bluntly as that. You know, I saw you, I think you're a really great player. And I said, well, I'd love to play music together, but I'm not really a bluegrass fiddler. I don't really know what I'm doing. I was crazy. So, despite my fears and reservations, I gave it a shot.
It looks like Eric's and the rest of the band's ready to get back there, and my wife's even giving me shit that you got to get up there. So, thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Chris.
And we look forward to the second set. Thank you.
Thank you.